I'm pleased to introduce an artist to share with us a piece to round out our evening. Jess Cooper is a young mother, dancer, musician, artist, community organizer, and an avid environmental advocate. And she incorporates her art into everything she does. She centers her work in alignment with organizations and projects that help create thriving environments for current and future generations to live, work, and play in. She is driven by strengthening connections in her community and carries out this work as executive director of a creative nonprofit called Creative Norway that provides low-cost creative spaces, mentorships, and funding for creative classes and projects for youth and adults. She also works at the Fair Share Food Co-op, where she finds joy in the day-to-day interactions with a huge and growing community of member owners and works to promote the cooperative model that she believes is essential in building resilient communities. Her hope is that through creative expression, value-centered work, cooperative education, and promoting consumer ownership, she can continue to lend support in the movement for a stable climate and thriving local communities. So thank you, Jess. We look forward to seeing you this evening.
Thank you for that introduction, Nicole, and thank you all for having me. I'm really excited to be back listening to you all about the consumer and utility. What comes up for me as a young mother and the issue of tackling climate change and how we can start doing this on a local level, I keep coming back to how to take these large ideas like a consumer and utility and process them into bite-sized bits. And it always brings me back to how important it is to stay curious. So when I was asked to use art to speak to you all, I chose to write about how I'm staying curious about the consumer and utility, and I invite you all to do the same. So I wrote a little piece called Consider the Consumer. Consider this, the first arc of light powered by wire and magnet, then the first one that was ever attached to a switch. How one by one every room and building and city was lit. How one day, all at once, through electricity, sound could transmit. How telegraph letters could appear to us through those sounds of a beep or a click. And then how lives and communities and science evolved with the idea of a current. Consider the source of life, the water that sustains. Hydropower brought us to coal, brought us to gas, brought us to atomic power and nuclear reactor. And then once things became clear that our methods couldn't satisfy the needs of the masses, we looked back again to the source, to water, to sun, to wind, to earth. Consider our grandparents, their experience shaped and formed by the slowness of the world, then exploding of new ideas revolutionizing their work. They bear stories from their parents of what life was like before this all unfurled. Consider now, fast, cash, big blast through mountain pass, frack to reach this gas, burn to make it all turn until we finally learn. And then, wind and sun to make it all run. We know something else can be done. Consider future generations. Will they wonder why we did what we did? Will they lament the way we tore apart communities and ecology for profit? Will we tell them it wasn't our fault, even though there were alternatives? Will they remember that there was a shifting from those who could no longer sit and watch their neighbors robbed of every cent while trying to power their homes and their lives and raise the children that became the future generations? Consider you, a single person, a human in an ocean of other beings, with the ability to touch many hundreds in a lifetime. You, the consumer. The user who can at any time also be the chooser of what's right. Will you use your voice and your choice to repair, to write new history for the future generations and the youth currently drowning in despair of an earth left to them in a state that is beyond unfair? Will you uplift and bring forth something better than what's currently there? Consider you, raising and nurturing these youth with care, for them to find out that they can own a piece of something they'll always need, a part of a grid we all share. So as a young person, a mother, a Mainer, a consumer, as a human, I invite you, consider your impact, consider what you need, consider what you use, consider the source, consider consumption, consider ownership, consider the youth, consider your chance to stand in your power, to stand up and choose, a clean energy future shining a light for the way through to Maine's liberation from for-profit utilities, long overdue.